This boy died for 12 minutes, and what he saw will haunt you. He was shown the future, visions of war, deception, and a terrifying message from Jesus about the year 2026. But the most shocking part, what happened after he came back? This is his story. The sound of laughter filled the air. It was a normal Tuesday afternoon, recess. 12-year-old Elijah sprinted across the schoolyard, his sneakers pounding the pavement, breath fogging in the crisp winter air. He was chasing his best friend during a game of tag when it happened. No warning, no cry, just collapse. 1 second joy, the next, silence. Elijah. His teacher shouted, "Elijah!" He didn't move. Children froze mid-play. A girl screamed. A whistle blew. Chaos broke loose. Teachers rushed in, kneeling over his body, trying to shake him awake. His skin had gone pale, his chest still, his eyes open but unseeing. "Elijah, can you hear me?" Someone said. No answer. A teacher called 911, voice shaking. "We have a child, unresponsive, no pulse. He just dropped." The ambulance arrived in under 4 minutes. Paramedics performed CPR as the gurney rattled into the back. The sound of sirens swallowed the air. Elijah's mother, who had been called in a panic, met them at the ER bay, screaming his name. But it was already happening. Inside that cold, sterile hospital room, Elijah's heart monitor screamed one final tone. "Flatline. We've lost him," a doctor whispered. He was dead for 11 minutes. Everything faded. There was no pain, no weight, no time, only absence. Then, a soundless hum, a presence, something pulling. Elijah felt his awareness rising, not just metaphorically. He was lifting, floating upward and away from his broken body, which now looked distant, small, surreal. Below, doctors scrambled. His mother collapsed to the floor in tears. Nurses held her back as her cries pierced the air. His father stood in shock, white-knuckled hands over his mouth. But Elijah felt none of it. There was peace. And then came the light. It wasn't a tunnel, not exactly. More like a shimmering passage, a vortex of swirling energy, gentle yet filled with gravity, as if it pulled not just his body, but his soul. Colors beyond earthly description pulsed around him, gold, silver, hues that had no names. Everything was vibrating with harmony and intelligence. He heard whispers, not voices exactly, not language, just awareness, messages. "You are not alone. Elijah, you must see." He moved or was moved through the tunnel until he emerged into a space so vast it made the Grand Canyon feel like a shoebox. It wasn't sky. It wasn't earth. It was something else. Golden clouds drifted beneath his feet as though he stood on the edge of heaven. The air shimmered. There was no sun, yet the space was full of light. Soft music, not quite sound, but a presence, filled the air like breath. Elijah looked around, his breath caught somewhere between awe and confusion. "I'm dreaming," he whispered, but the thought dissolved into something deeper. He knew this wasn't a dream. This was realer than real. And then, he felt it, a presence. Turning, he saw it. A figure approached through the golden mist, radiant yet somehow familiar, not terrifying, but commanding. Love radiated off the being in waves that touched every part of Elijah's soul. He couldn't look directly at the figure at first. The light was too intense, but it didn't burn, it soothed. "Elijah," a voice called. It was a voice that sounded like music, a voice that carried power and compassion in perfect balance. He dropped to his knees, trembling, not from fear, but reverence. I don't understand," he said. "You are not meant to stay," the being said gently. "Who are you?" Elijah asked, heart pounding. The light softened just enough, and the figure stepped forward. Long white robes, eyes like burning galaxies, hands that looked like they had held the world. "I am Jesus," he said. Elijah gasped. He felt a love so immense it overwhelmed him, but beneath it, a tension, a sorrow. Jesus knelt beside him, placing a hand over Elijah's chest. "You are here because you've been chosen," he said. "You were not meant to die, not yet." "Why me?" Elijah whispered. "What's happening?" Jesus looked up, his expression growing grave. "The world is walking into a storm," he said slowly, "and 2026 is the eye of it." Elijah's breath caught. "I don't understand. What kind of storm?" Jesus stood, gesturing toward the sky. "You must see for yourself," he said. "But I must warn you, what you witness will be difficult. You will not want to return, but you must, because they need to know." Elijah swallowed hard. "Know what?" "That time is short, that hearts are cold, that the signs are already here, but they are not watching." Jesus turned. Behind him, the golden mist parted. A glowing portal rose from the clouds, swirling like liquid fire and lightning. It pulsed with power. "Come," Jesus said. "Walk with courage, Elijah." The boy's knees shook. The light from the portal was blinding, pulsing with urgency. His heart raced. His soul trembled. And still, he stepped forward. As Elijah approached the threshold, Jesus spoke once more. "Everything you see will shape what you become." Then blinding light. Elijah shielded his eyes as he crossed the threshold of the glowing portal. The brightness was too much, pure and fierce, as if truth itself had a form. But soon the light gave way to something else. Silence. And then, images. They didn't appear on a screen. They surrounded him, wrapped around his senses. He was inside them. A vision. The first thing Elijah saw was a calendar, November 2024, and a flickering news broadcast. Protesters filled the streets of major cities. Their faces were tired, angry, divided. The camera zoomed into clashes outside voting centers, people shouting, throwing punches, waving signs, both sides claiming betrayal. Jesus stood beside Elijah, face somber. "Truth has become a tool," he said. "They fight not for justice, but for dominance. And yet, they believe they are righteous." Elijah's gaze was pulled to homes, families arguing over dinner tables, unfriending each other online, walls rising between siblings. "Division is not always loud," Jesus said. "Sometimes it whispers and breaks what love once held." The image changed. A heat wave scorched the earth. Forests burned like torches. Floods swallowed towns. Earthquakes tore through cities not known for shaking. Elijah saw animals dying, crops withering, people running. But what struck him wasn't just the chaos, it was the indifference. People scrolled past disasters on their phones, more concerned with filters and follower counts than falling skies. "They are numb," Jesus said softly. "They do not see the warnings." The scene shifted. Elijah stood in a world glowing blue. Everything was sleek. Artificial intelligence had become integrated into nearly every part of life, school, work, even worship. Holograms preached in empty churches. AI-generated prophets promised truth in soothing voices. But they were hollow, dead. People were surrounded by convenience, but starved of meaning. Faces blurred as everyone tried to become something they weren't, recreated, rebranded, filtered beyond recognition. "They no longer know who they are," Jesus whispered. "They have forgotten my image within them." Darkness fell. Elijah watched as a thick, black veil spread across the earth like smoke. It covered cities, neighborhoods, even the countryside. Behind the veil, he heard weeping. Not just crying, souls groaning in anguish. He saw a church, once full, now dim and echoing. Pews sat empty, the pulpit covered in dust. He saw families torn apart, not by war or disease, but by ideology. A father locking his son out. A mother weeping alone. "They call evil good," Jesus said, "and good, intolerant." Elijah shivered. He tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. The calendar flipped again. 2026. The number pulsed in red. And then, everything grew still. Not silent, just still, like the earth had taken a breath it couldn't release. Jesus looked at Elijah. "This is the eye of the storm." Suddenly, the sky tore open above them, not literally, but symbolically. Elijah saw thousands of decisions being made, hearts choosing, some toward light, many toward shadow. "You said it's not the end," Elijah murmured. Jesus nodded. "No, but it is a line, a dividing, the moment where men will choose who they truly serve." The image split. One half showed chaos, people raging, turning on each other, crying in fear, governments collapsing, towers falling, digital systems failing. The other half, quiet rooms. Small groups gathered with open Bibles, lit candles, whispering prayers. "They will not be televised," Jesus said, "but they will hold the fire." The darkest point of the vision came. A cold silence, but then, a single spark. A child kneeling in a bedroom, praying in secret. Then another spark. An old woman feeding a stranger. Then, a man forgiving someone who betrayed him. The lights grew. One by one, across the world, hidden flames ignited. They will seem small, Jesus said, but these will shine brightest when all else dims. Elijah wept. There is still hope. Jesus turned to him, eyes full of deep sorrow and infinite love. Always, as long as one heart turns, heaven rejoices. Suddenly, the sky changed. Dark clouds churned, lightning cracked, but not downward, upward like the earth itself was calling out. And then, it happened. A crack. A massive tear across the heavens, like the sky itself had split. Behind it, a glow. Blinding, moving, approaching. Elijah couldn't see its form, but he felt it. Something was coming. A force ancient, righteous, holy. The earth responded. Some people fell on their knees, weeping. Others screamed and ran. "What is it?" Elijah asked. Jesus said nothing, just watched. The crack widened. And then, everything stopped. Elijah fell to his knees, breathless. "I don't want to leave," he cried. "Let me stay. Let me help." Jesus knelt beside him, placing a hand on the boy's chest. "You already are," he said. "But I'm just a kid. They won't listen." "They will, because your voice will carry my warning." Jesus looked at him with tears in his eyes. "You must go back. Tell them. They have little time." Then, a great wind blew. Elijah was swept backward, his vision blurring, the sound of rushing air filling his ears. "Tell them." Jesus' voice echoed. 2026 will divide the hearts of men. Elijah's body jerked violently on the hospital bed. Nurses screamed, alarms wailed. Code blue, he's crashing again. Except, he wasn't. He was coming back. His chest rose with a gasp so loud it silenced the room. His eyes flew open, wide, wild, locked on the ceiling like he was staring through it. 12 minutes. He had been gone for 12 minutes. People don't just come back after that, not intact. His mother dropped to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably. His father stumbled back against the wall, hand over his mouth, pale as snow. But Elijah didn't see them. He sat upright, breathing like he'd run for miles, eyes wet, whispering over and over, "I saw him. I saw him. He showed me." Elijah didn't return the same way he left. He stopped laughing. He barely spoke. Sometimes he just sat by the window for hours, staring into the clouds, like he was listening for something. At night, he'd wake up screaming, drenched in sweat. He drew things, pages and pages of strange, haunting images. Clocks melting into fire. Eyes watching from the sky. Angels weeping over cities. A crack in the heavens. His parents thought it was trauma. PTSD maybe, but no therapy could explain what came next. One evening, 3 weeks after the incident, Elijah quietly walked into the living room where his parents sat. He placed a sketchbook on the table, wordless. His father flipped through the pages, brows furrowed, then stopped. A drawing, the exact skyline of a nearby town, with a fireball over it. "What is this?" Elijah looked up. "It's coming," he said simply. "I was told to warn you." He began to speak, slowly at first, then with growing urgency. He recounted every moment of the visions, every word Jesus spoke, every image burned into his mind. His parents sat frozen. His mother finally whispered, "Why you?" Elijah didn't answer. At first, no one believed him. But then, the events began. A rare earthquake hit their region, one Elijah had drawn days before. A solar flare disrupted communication lines, another image in his book. A church in town mysteriously burned down after emptying out, something Elijah had whispered in a sleepwalking daze weeks earlier. The house will stand, but the fire will eat its voice. Word spread. Local journalists caught wind of it. His story ran on a small-town news station. Interviews, headlines, boy claims to have seen Jesus, predicts coming global shaking. People laughed, until more came true. Soon the story spread beyond their town. A major podcast interviewed Elijah's parents. Then a primetime news anchor invited them. Clips of Elijah's drawings went viral. A TikTok trend, #2026 prophecy, but just as quickly, it all stopped. Videos disappeared. Accounts banned. Segments pulled. Even the local newscaster who first aired his story posted a final video. "I can't talk about this anymore. Something's going on. Be careful. Then silence. The screen turns dark. Then Elijah appears, sitting alone in a dimly lit room. He's older now, maybe just a few months, but his eyes look ancient, like they've seen lifetimes. He leans closer to the camera, eyes locked on you. "I don't know how much time I have left to say this," he whispers. "They're trying to stop this from getting out." He glances over his shoulder, as if someone's coming. "Jesus told me to tell you. 2026 is coming, and you're not ready." The screen flickers, static. Just as he opens his mouth to say more, the feed cuts out. A soft whisper in the dark. Do you believe his warning? Something is coming. Tell us what you think. Like, comment, and subscribe before it's too late.